You're listening to The Mom Manual.
I'm Emma.
I'm Caroline.
I'm Bella.
And I'm Phoebe.
Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you've been with us since the beginning, welcome.
This is a podcast all about educating teen moms and offering advice throughout their pregnancy. Today's episode is all about teratogens. What? Oh, maybe wondering teratogens. What is that? And chances are you never learned about them in your high school health class.
I didn't.
I know I didn't either. Well, they're anything that causes damage to your baby's development during your pregnancy.
It could be anything in the environment, something you eat or drink, medication or drugs, and even an infection. But do not get nervous because once you know what to look out for, a lot of teratogens can easily be avoided.
Yep. Now, on to our first topic.
Woo! Okay, let's talk about probably the most well-known teratogen. Drugs. Oh my gosh. I know. And we're not talking about prescription drugs, although those are teratogens too. We're talking about psychoactive substances that can have extremely detrimental effects on both you and your baby's cognitive and physical development.
For those of you who may not know what a psychoactive substance is, I will give you the rundown from the World Health Organization. Psychoactive drugs are substances that, when taken in or administered into one system, affect mental processes.
They alter your perception, like that feeling, when you can't see straight, or your consciousness or cognition, or your mood and emotions. This can include things such as weed, Molly, also known as ecstasy, cocaine, meth, heroin, and you get the point.
Yeah. You may be wondering how these substances even reach the fetus. They reach the fetus through the placenta, the organ that provides oxygen and nutrients for the fetus. And the use of any substance can put the baby at risk for neonatal abstinence syndrome. This is when a baby is going through active withdrawals, starting as early as birth to 14 days after birth.
That's insane.
That's crazy. The use of any substance immediately increases the risk of having a stillbirth. For example, if you consume marijuana while pregnant, you are 2.3 times higher risk of stillbirth.
That is a risk you absolutely do not want to take.
Definitely not. Now, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint the exact effects of certain drugs because when one substance is used, it's often mixed with another. But we're going to tell you what we do know.
Firstly, cocaine.
The use of cocaine puts the mother at a higher risk for migraines, seizures, premature membrane rupture, and placenta abruption. As for the baby, the use of cocaine may cause low birth weight, smaller head, shorter height, as well as irritability, hyperactivity, tremors, and high-pitched crying and excessive sucking.
Scary stuff. Now, with the use of heroin, babies are more likely to be smaller and have a low birth weight. They have increased emotional reactivity, anxiety, depression, are socially withdrawn, have attention problems, and other cognitive issues.
And while heroin sounds really bad, we're now going to talk about MDMA. While you most likely heard of MDMA, you've probably heard it as Molly or ecstasy. And it actually has minimal research on fetal development. The research we do have shows that the use of MDMA may lead to learning difficulties, memory loss, or motor development problems.
Similarly, when we're discussing meth exposures lead to significant damage in the orbital frontal cortices, which are in charge of decision-making, emotion, and impulse control.
Wow. Kids exposed to meth during pregnancy tend to perform worse on visual motor integration tasks, and areas of the brain are found to be smaller than typical newborns. Now, hearing about all these different drugs, we know the effects of these drugs can lead to long-term challenges later in your baby's life. It could be poor academic performance, difficulty controlling impulses, or emotional instability. And there's a higher likelihood of substance use or mental health issues as they grow older. These are just a few of the effects that they'll carry on throughout your child's entire life.
Yep. Now, none of this was meant to scare you if you do partake in any of these substances. And we're not here to get you in trouble.
Our goal is to inform you so that you can make the best decisions possible for both you and your baby. Both adolescent substance use and pregnancy tends to lead to multiple academic, interpersonal, economic, and health issues, all of which we do not want for our mom and their babies.
Definitely not. So we mentioned drugs like cocaine, Molly, and meth. What about alcohol, nicotine?
Yes. So besides marijuana and alcohol and nicotine are two most common psychoactive drugs used by teens. According to a study that I found from the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, 75% of high school students have reported using addictive substances such as the ones I just mentioned.
Insane.
And of that 75, 22% reported using substances before their last sexual encounter.
Wow. So, for all of our pregnant listeners, while alcohol and nicotine may seem less harmful or scarier than cocaine or heroin, they are still extremely capable of damaging not only your developing brain, but your baby's as well.
Exactly. When a pregnant mom consumes alcohol during her pregnancy, she's putting her baby at risk for something called fetal alcohol syndrome, or FAS, or FAS. FAS disrupts the fetus's brain development and can severely affect their motor coordination, emotional control, socialization, or learning.
And these effects go beyond the womb. They can last a lifetime and affect their success in school, jobs, and relationships. So if there's absolutely any chance that you may be pregnant, girl, please put that pink Whitney down.
Yes, please. And when you think of harmful substances for pregnant teen moms, what comes to mind? Drugs, probably, alcohol. Maybe you think of 9 long months without sushi.
Oh my god.
For me, smoking is the first thing I think of. According to the National Library of Medicine, young pregnant teens reported greater drug use compared to their non-pregnant peers. They also use substances at a higher rate than older pregnant women, around 13.8% compared to just 3.4% for women over 26.
Wow. You may be wondering, how does smoking while pregnant affect me and my baby? Well, we're here to tell you.
It's more likely to cause miscarriages and stillbirths, and it can lead to preterm labor or low birth weights. Low birth weights increase the risk of infant mortality or developmental delays.
That's true. Women that smoke during their pregnancy have a 1.2 to 2.8 higher risk of having stillbirth, and it increases the risk of miscarriages by 24 to 32%.
Oh my God. Infant mortality includes SIDS as well, which is sudden infant death syndrome. A smoking pregnant mother causes nicotine to reduce the oxygen flowing to her baby.
A child of a mother who smoked during pregnancy has a higher risk of memory or attention problems, for example, ADHD. They could also struggle with emotional regulation or speech understanding. These things can make them struggle in school with things like reading or understanding math, and they'll have a hard time building relationships with peers.
Right, and I mean, can you imagine the amount of frustration, anxiety, and lower self-esteem that causes for them? It could have a long-term effect on them throughout adulthood.
Yeah, through adulthood, they could have a harder time with their education, relationships, or employment compared to their other peers. And let's not forget, besides developmental delays, smoking is also a major risk factor for other diseases such as childhood cancer, meningitis, and asthma and respiratory infections.
Now here's where you need to be cautious. Mothers and their fetuses can encounter these problems even if the mothers aren't the ones smoking. Secondhand smoke is still a very serious terrogen too.
Yes, secondhand smoke can be just as harmful to your pregnancy as direct smoking. It can all lead to the same complications.
Fun fact, the fathers are actually the most likely source for the secondhand smoke during pregnancies, so believe me, you will want to choose your relationship wisely.
Didn't know that. Me neither. Now moving on to our next topic, we are going to discuss the health of the mom. There are serious infections that can pose risks during your pregnancy. You might have heard of something called TORCH. It's an acronym that categorizes a group of infections that can seriously affect both mom and baby. So let's get into it. The T in TORCH stands for toxoplasmosis, which can be caught from cat feces. This can cause the baby to have brain damage, seizures, or vision problems later in life.
The O is for other infections like group B strep, listeria, and STIs. R is for rubella, C, and let's hope I can pronounce this, cytomegalovirus, and H, herpes.
You did so good.
Thanks. Which can cause a number of problems ranging from hearing and vision loss to paralysis.
Oh no. There are other infections such as syphilis, chickenpox, shingles, hepatitis B and C, HIV, and fifth disease. These can all lead to complications like birth defects, developmental delays, or unfortunately, even miscarriages.
And let's not forget maternal health conditions. Things like uncontrolled diabetes and autoimmune diseases can also increase the risk of birth defects if not managed properly.
Yeah, so now this all seems like a lot of information. You may be struggling to handle your pregnancy and all the stress that comes with it, but don't worry, you can manage it. Yes, and speaking of stress, substances and uncontrolled health conditions aren't the only things you need to avoid during pregnancy.
For sure. Excessive stress can be an impactful terrogen that many people don't really consider throughout the course of pregnancy.
And it is not nearly talked about enough.
I agree.
Definitely.
And while little stress is good for pregnancy, too much can be detrimental for you and your baby.
So the American Psychological Association did a 2023 study on the effects of excessive maternal stress during pregnancy.
And they found a number of behavioral changes linked to the mom's stress while she was pregnant.
Aggressive and impulsive behaviors were more common among children born to moms with high stress levels, and they showed more symptoms of ADHD, anxiety, depression, and conduct disorders.
Right, and not only are these kids at a higher risk for these behavioral and developmental disorders, but they may even be at a higher risk to have their own excessive stress and stress management issues throughout their life.
We don't want that. Excessive stress can also lead to reduction in telomere length.
Telomere length being DNA sequences that enable the division of cells and protect the ends of chromosomes, which can lead to an increased risk of developing a variety of diseases, even some having the potential to be fatal.
Right, and other biological changes can occur too, like cortical thinning or an enlarged amygdala, just to name a few.
The key takeaway here is that while some stress actually helps you and your baby during the pregnancy, too much stress can put a lot of extra risks on your baby.
Right, this is why it is so important to take care of yourself. Find ways to manage or prevent this excessive stress from having an impact on you and your baby during your pregnancy. So take a break, maybe go to the spa, just relax.
But not only are we going to be focusing on managing stress during the pregnancy, but you have to after birth as well.
For sure. Excessive stress can be a large inhibitor to your ability to properly care for your child and form those essential and safe, secure parent-child relationship, contributing to healthy development throughout the whole course of childhood.
And not to mention the effects that excessive stress can have on your own still developing brain and health as well.
Right, but that is a whole other topic of discussion for a completely different episode.
Now, before we wrap up, we're adding a new segment we're super excited about to hear from our listeners. We're going to answer some questions.
Our first question this week comes from Alexa in Chicago, who asks, I'm super tired all the time from work and school. Is it okay to drink coffee while pregnant?
Great question, Alexa. Now, a small amount of caffeine, about 1 regular cup a day, is usually safe, but too much can increase the risk of low birth weight or miscarriage. So we should skip the high caffeinated drinks such as Red Bulls or Alanis, and remember, always talk to your doctor to find out specifically what is right for you and your pregnancy.
For sure. And our second question is from Lucy in Florida. Lucy asks, what can I do if I've already been drinking or smoking before I found out I was pregnant?
Well, you're not alone, Lucy. Many teen girls experience the same situation. So hopefully this can help a few of our other listeners. Really, the best thing you can do is stop as soon as you find out, and then see your healthcare provider right away. The sooner you quit, the better outcome for your baby.
Okay, our last question for today comes from Rachel in Texas, who asks, my friends still vape around me even though I'm pregnant. Is it really that bad to be around it if I'm not the one vaping?
This is such an important question, Rachel. Thank you for asking. And to put it simply, yes, secondhand vape exposure can still be harmful. E-cigarette vapor contains nicotine and other chemicals and metals that can affect your baby's developing brain and lungs.
Even if you're not vaping yourself. It's really just best to avoid being around vaping or smoking as much as possible. Or entirely. Your health and your baby's are worth setting those boundaries, and good friends will respect that.
Thank you for all the questions we received. If you didn't hear yours today, tune into our next episode and keep sending in your questions and we'll keep answering them.
Now, to wrap all this up, between substances, infections, and stress, there are a lot of things that can affect your baby's development. But with awareness and care, you can prevent many risks and protect both you and your baby.
By listening to this podcast and staying informed, you're already doing an amazing job, Mama.
We really hope today's chat gave you confidence and comfort in your pregnancy journey. Until next time, take care, and remember, you've got this.
That's all we have for you today. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Mom Manual.